don't take this in any kind of negative light. This is a teaching and training point for all of us, because as coaches, we've got to listen to what people say, and that their words have meaning. There's a couple of things that you said in there. You have a problem. You're assuming you have a problem. There's an assumption that you don't have access to people who would pay that. And I'm telling you, you do have access to people, and you don't have a problem. So this is a lens that we're wearing, and it keeps us from what we could have. I'll give you an illustration. Years ago, and this is before I'd really broken in at a really high level in my coaching, but I'd come home. I was still working full time and working as a part-time coach, and my wife at the time was watching this well-known reality TV show, which I won't name because I wanted to honor my wife, because she would never watch that show again. But back in that day, it was like everybody was watching the show. And I come in, and I didn't watch the show at all, but I knew one of the characters because he was also a professional athlete. So I knew him from his professional sports career, which was kind of like he wasn't really doing that anymore, but I knew him from that. And they were having this conversation, and it was a real barrier that was going on, and it was between him and his wife, and it was creating some conflict, but it was some stuff that was in him. And I look at I had this crazy thought, and I don't know where the thought came from, but I knew I was dealing with my mindset and a lot of things. I was going into the kitchen because we had a tiny place we were living at the time. And I was going into the kitchen, the living room was right next, and I turned around and I was like, I need to help that guy. And it was the weirdest thought that it was like, why did I even think that I had anything to give him? This guy's made multi-millions, all this other stuff. Do I really think that I have anything to give to this person? How am I going to help them? How would I even have access to him? And I was like, you know what? If I believe that I can help him, I must have access to him. So I went on my Facebook. I had a private Facebook with not even 1,000 friends on it. Okay, so not thousands of people, not even 1,000 people. And I went on there and I said, hey, who has a connection with so and so? I'm gonna start with just people that I know. Within an hour, it was about 30 minutes later, I had the phone number of that person's personal assistant. Now, where did that come from? Is that I produced it really with the mindset that I was coming from. I'm not one of those people who are just, you speak into existence what you want and all that. I'm not all like that. But I will tell you that the lens that you're wearing, it creates a culture and it creates an environment of what is possible for you. I did the same thing with another athlete that I love watching play, and I just decided, I was like, man, this guy is a head case. Every time it's a big game, he keeps not showing up, and he's like the best shooter in the league watching basketball or whatever. And I went to a networking group. And after the networking group was over with, I was having breakfast with these people, and I was like, I was watching this game last night. I said, I love this guy, but he's such a head case. I'm going to find a way to coach that person. And the person who was sitting at the table said, and I'm like, I don't know how, but you watch. I'm gonna get in and I'm gonna coach this person and get him out of his head. And there was a person sitting at the table that said, I used to work with his team, and I know all the coaches around him. I can give you his number. And it was like within seconds, it's given to me. What happened? Well, I really had a mindset of like, I actually have access to anything that I believe that I'm worthy of, and I have access to. It's a lens, and I have to acknowledge the fact. What's important right now is to acknowledge, here's what my lens is. My lens is that these are my limits. Well, we have to take the lens off. Why do I believe this is my limit? Because the people I currently know have that limit? Or do I assume the wrong thing about these people? Or do I assume that no one wants to invest in me or whatever? There's a lot of other belief systems that are constructing this lens that we wear. And if we can find out what it is and eliminate it, see, it doesn't matter if I told you right now, hey, well, you have access to anybody you want. Why don't you just go and walk into whatever building where there's these celebrities at right now in your town and go and start coaching people? See, I could tell you to do that as a how-to, and it wouldn't help you, because you still may not have the mindset to be able to go in there and do that. I can tell that to all of you. I can give you a lot of how-tos, and I can tell you what you need to do. But if the lens is on there, then you may not walk across the room and meet the person, And so these are the kinds of things that we have to go after. There's plenty of how-tos in Jumpstart. Not to evade any kind of question. There's plenty of how-tos on that. But the mindset is what's always going to prevent us from being able to get there. We have access, especially in this day and age, you have access to literally every person on the planet. You really do. We know that, logically, but we just don't know that we're actually worthy and that we could actually do it.